everybody, it's Simon here from careermap.co.uk and welcome to day 5 of National Apprenticeship Week 2022. This is our second live event of today and we're joined by the team from National Grid. The team will be discussing everything that they do within the apprenticeship sector, what opportunities they have. They've got some current apprentices to come and discuss their experiences and hopefully give you some hints and tips about applications, assessment centres, that sort of stuff. But before we begin, if you look to the right of the presentation screen, you'll see a chat facility. We are live, so ask any question at any time. And what we'll do, we'll try and run through as many of the questions as we can during the Q&A session at the end. So without further ado, I will pass you over to the National Grid team to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Simon. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. So I'm Laura and I'm part of the talent acquisition team at National Grid. So I basically manage the recruitment for the apprenticeships and the graduates, along with my colleagues Anthony and Vicky, who are also on the call. Katie and Perry are both current apprentices who will be sharing their experience of what it's like to be an apprenticeship at National Grid as well.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. My name's Anthony Coleman. I'm a new talent specialist working with Laura and Vicky. So today, obviously, we're here to talk about apprenticeships. So, why would you want to do an apprenticeship at National Grid? So the apprenticeships at National Grid allow you to acquire valuable skills and experience in the energy sector through on-the-job learning and training. It's a really exciting time to be in the energy sector due to the importance of reaching net zero in our fight against climate change. So National Grid is a leading international electricity and gas company. And it's our job to connect people to the energy they use and to do it safely. We're at the heart of one of the greatest challenges. So like I said, we're delivering clean energy to support our world long into the future. We're one of the largest investor-owned companies in the world with 26,000 employees in total. 16,000 of those are based in the US, mostly around New York and the Boston sort of area on the East Coast. And we have about 10,000 here in the UK, and we're based pretty much everywhere.
So we're training the next generation of talent to manage future energy demand. Our range of apprenticeships provide all the skills, insight and training that you'll need to start a brilliant career. By becoming a National Grid apprentice, you're taking on a role with great responsibility, so you impact the lives of everybody in Great Britain. The programmes run from our training centre in Eakring, so that's in Nottinghamshire. It's a real alternative to university, and it just offers a brilliant platform for an exciting career. It develops your skills through a mix of practical work and academic study. So our advanced apprenticeship programs range from 2 to 4 years, and you can gain either a level 3 or 4 qualification, just depending on which apprenticeship you join. To be considered for the roles, you do need to have a minimum of a Gcse in maths, English and science at either a 4 or a C or above. In addition to these, you do need to have either 2 more GCSEs, and these can be in any subjects. Or if you don't have 2 additional GCSEs, you can also have a BTEC equivalent, and we just ask that it's in a STEM subject. If successful, you must also be willing to learn to drive or obtain a licence 12 months after the programme starts, just depending on when your 17th birthday falls. Currently, we have a number of roles within National Grid Ventures, gas transmission, and also electricity transmission. We'll be advertising some roles very soon as well.
Yeah, so with the higher apprentices, it's quite similar to the advanced apprentices. You'll earn while you learn and develop well-rounded skills through practical experience. You'll get a level 4 qualification, and depending on what you want, there's also the opportunity to study for a foundation degree, which National Grid are happy to pay for. So the requirements for the higher apprenticeships are similar to the advanced apprenticeships, so English, Maths and Science, GCSE, and we also ask for 2 A-levels or equivalent. Subject requirements for these qualifications do vary from programme to programme, so make sure you check the job description for the role you think you'd like to apply for. Some perks for the higher apprenticeship programme. So you get a starting salary of £24,999 per year. You have 25 days annual leave plus bank holidays. You can get to be part of our share scheme. and our pension scheme, along with 2 or 3 years of development opportunities. And I think now I can pass you on to Katie and Perry to talk through their experience.
Brilliant, thank you. So the key aspects of the apprenticeship program, especially for me, the fact that you don't have to pay to go to university, that's completely paid. If the university is not within like driving distance, or you can get put up in hotels for the week. We have our like specialist training centre at ECRIM, which was mentioned earlier, which again, everything's paid for while you're there, your accommodation, and you get all of like your tailored almost industry training there, whereas your learning is done at a university. You then get specialised training for your role at ECRIM as well, and then you get many different chances for like on-job learning. So I don't actually know where I'm going to end up working yet. I'm going to do like 3 or 4 different placements and then see which sort of role suits me best and the company best. So it's very flexible in that respect. Why we considered applying, I know for me personally, it was, again, going to uni with no debts at the end of it. It's paid. There's very clear progression routes with National Grid as well. So it's not like you've got your job and you're going to stay there forever. You can move within the business up and down, up the ladder in the business as well. And it's all quite clear and obvious how like, that happens, whereas a lot of places don't offer you that sort of progression. And again, company benefits, whether it's paying for your accommodation when you're at uni, paying for you to go to uni, paying for you to go anywhere like ECRIM travel, like traveling to the ECRIM base or to your office. It like I was given a year to move down, so they're very flexible with stuff like that. Hints and tips for when to apply. I would definitely look into the values of National Grid and the part of National Grid you're applying for. It's a very big company. Like they said, there's gas transmission, there's ET, you've got the ESO as well. So each of those offer very different sort of roles. So it's be clear on which one you're applying for and make sure you do your research on that specific job area. I don't know if it's going to be virtual this year or not, but take your time virtually. Like the pre-recorded answers are difficult. It took me probably 2 or 3 attempts to get those right. To like get your answers correct. Don't be afraid to redo them. Similar with the assessment centre. I think, again, if it's in person, I don't know, but virtually when we did it, it was a sort of scenario and it's which is best for the business. And my bit of advice on that would be cheapest isn't always the best. So perhaps weigh up like reputational options would be my bit of advice if you make it that far. And again, in the interviews, generic answers probably aren't always the best. Like they probably hear 500 times a day, I work well on my own and in a team. Like give some examples just to sort of make you stand out a little bit. But yeah, over to Katie for the last couple of bits.
Thank you, Perry. So I'm Katie. I started in September as an apprentice power system engineer in the electricity transmission side of the business. So Perry is doing a similar thing, but in the electricity system operator, which we're now separate. So similar scheme, but slightly different role. What it's like to apply. So I think Anthony and Laura are going to go into a bit more detail about this in the coming slides, but from a perspective of someone who's gone through it, it is quite thorough, but it does happen pretty quickly. I think I applied quite late, so it seemed to all be over and done with in a few months. But you'll have a contact from National Grid throughout it if you have any questions you want to ask, and they're pretty good at keeping you updated, how long you've got to wait for the next stage and things like that. So like lots of jobs, it starts with an online application, but hundreds of people apply, so make sure that that's your first impression that they have of you. So just take your time and you'll be great. So I'm not going to go into exactly what happens in the application as it's going to be covered later. So I'm going to go on to the concerns and highlights. We'll start with the concerns, get them out of the way. With an apprenticeship, there is quite a lot on your plate. You've got to juggle the deadlines and work constantly from your actual role as well as uni and other training. So there's not really a time where you sit there thinking, everything's done. There's always something to be doing. So also, if you come from a background outside of the industry, maybe straight from school or from something very different, there is a lot to learn. So those first few months trying to get your footing and get to grips with all the terminology and acronyms, don't worry, like it's not going to be easy. And also, if you do come straight from school, then you're put straight into a professional environment. So you know, don't expect to be padded to or anything. You've really got to take initiative for your own career. That being said, one thing that National Grid is absolutely brilliant at is having all those people there to support you. But the people are just incredible. Everyone's always eager to help, regardless of whether they actually know you or not. You can just ask people for help, and they're always willing to give you some advice. And a lot of people have gone through development schemes as well, whether it be apprenticeship or a graduate scheme or something. So people know what it's like as well. And you're not expected to just like make tea or you're just an apprentice. And I think that's reflected as well in the wage that you're really invested in to make a difference. And there's so many opportunities to learn new things. So it's just 2 years, or for my program, it's 2 years of being paid to just get as much experience as you can and learn as much as you can. And obviously all apprenticeships boast the whole earn while you learn concept. But actually how companies do this is quite different. So I can't really fault National Grid for the way they run the scheme. There's so much training for your particular role and uni and e-careering and general training there. So I think the best part of working for National Grid, for me, I love being part of a company which is so central to meeting net zero, knowing that I'm doing something tangible to help decarbonise. And there is quite a lot of pride that comes with that as well. And also safety focus. Being a regulated company, we do have to do what's most economical for the consumer, but safety is always prioritised, and there is an environment where we can feel comfortable bringing up issues and concerns. So that's really good. Yeah, any company can say something on paper, but being able to translate that into reality is quite difficult. So I think National Grid do a really good job of actually living their values rather than just having it on paper. So that's it from me.
Cool, thank you, Katie. So now I'm going to talk about the application process. So I know Laura's going to go through some more hints and tips on the next slide, but I'm just going to quickly run through how the application process works. So like Perry was saying, at the moment, our assessment centres are virtual. This will probably change in the future, but we're not quite sure at the moment. There are some aspects of the apprenticeship schemes where we will ask you to go to site as part of the application process to make sure you're okay out with maybe working from heights or do a colourblind test, that type of thing. So it's basically split into 4 stages. The first stage is your online application. So it's quite a standard application form. We'll ask your personal details, your work and educational history, and there's usually a motivational question here as well. So that will be something along the lines of, why do you want to work at National Grid? It's good to give some thought before you answer this, as your answer to this question may be looked at when we're shortlisting for the assessment centre at a later stage, so bear that in mind. So the next stage is your digital interview. So that's basically a recording of a National Grid employee, possibly me, asking you a question, and then you record yourself giving an answer. So it's not live, it's all recorded. Again, give some thought on how you'd like to answer and maybe treat this as a bit of a mini interview. This can be recorded at any time and any place you like, but try to make sure you have a space you can focus on, say your answers, and you can be at your best. So stage 3 is your profile assessment, which is basically a few online games that look at different elements of your cognitive, emotional and social traits. There's not really much you can do in terms of preparing for these, and you'll get personalised feedback once you've completed them. And then the final stage is the big one, that's the assessment centre. So at the assessment centre, you have sort of the usual interview. You're sometimes also asked to do a presentation to present to your assessors. It's a great chance for you to meet National Grid employees and your potential managers and or colleagues and do a bit of networking. Assessment centres, they tend to change from programme to programme. So we provide you with more details on your assessment centre, sort of closer to the time on how it works and what you need to do to prepare for it. And I think Laura might have a few more hints and tips on this on the next slide.
Yeah, so I'll just run through these. So first one is we'd always recommend applying as early as possible, as we can close roles early sometimes. So if you see a role that you really like on the Monday, don't wait until the weekend to apply. If a role does close before you get a chance to apply, just send us an email. We might be able to accept some later applications, but again, if we closed it early, it might be because we've already reached that application limit. So just bear that in mind. Make sure you do give yourself plenty of time to complete the tasks, as I mentioned before, the deadlines. So obviously complete your applications. It includes everything Anthony has just run through, and also the assessments. You will be given a deadline. So we're not always able to provide extensions for these, just because we do have thousands of applications and we need to stick to the recruitment schedule. So just bear that in mind. Don't wait until the last day to take your assessments, because we know technical issues can happen sometimes. Take it on the first few days. We give you 7 days. And if there are issues, then hopefully we can get it sorted before your deadline. Ensure you include all relevant information in your application. So this includes qualifications and why you'd like to work for National Grid. Sometimes applicants don't include, say, their GCSEs or their A-levels or BTEC on their application, so it's not quite clear to us that you've met the requirements that we've set on the adverts. So if you're unsure, I'd just say put as much information into the application as possible, and if we need anything else, we will reach out and contact you. We will provide you with contact details as well, so when you apply, if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at any point, or if you just need an update, we can provide that for you. If you need any adjustments to the application process or the recruitment process at any point, and you're not really sure, you just want to have a conversation with someone, again, contact us on that email and we will get in touch with you to discuss what the options are. When answering assessment questions, we'd always recommend using the STAR method. So if you're not familiar with it, it's situation, task, action, and result. It just helps to give a good structure to your answer. And it also just makes sure that you've not missed anything out. Also, always refer to I, so what you exactly did when you're answering questions, because that's what we're looking for. If you're working in a team and you're using the word we don't know what you've specifically done. So just bear that in mind, always use the word I. Make sure when you're doing your online assessments, or if you're invited to a virtual assessment centre, that you're somewhere where there will be no distractions and the Wi-Fi signal's good. If you keep dropping out, obviously it might not work and it might not put you in the calmest mood. So just make sure that you've got everything set up, you've tested it, and hopefully everything will be fine. If technical issues do arise, we do try our best to help. Turning it on and off again is usually the answer for us, but we will always look at rescheduling if it's something outside of your control. As Anthony mentioned, mostly the assessment centres will be virtual at the minute, but some stages, there are 2 stages. So we'll have a virtual centre first, and then we might need to do something in person because it's a hands-on task, or like we said, we need to test if you're okay working at heights, if that's a requirement for the role. One other thing that I thought about when we were going through the application process is check locations. So some of our locations are very rural. So you might go onto the website and think, no, there's nothing here for me. But I'd just check where the locations are, because of the type of sites that we have. They're not going to be in the city centre. They're going to be on the outskirts or in the middle of nowhere. So just check where those locations are that are on the website. If you are unsure, just get in touch. But most of them, you do need to be within a 45-minute travel time of that location, because you might be asked to work on critical projects. So that's why we needed to be that close. So I think we're ready for questions. Simon, did you want me to hand it back over to you?
Yeah, sure. I'll lead this bit if that's okay. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. There's been quite a few, so that's great to see. Keep them coming, by the way. You know, we've got a fair bit left of the session, so right. So let's start with Jane. Jane asks, "Do apprentices work on sustainability projects?"
Perry or Katie, are you able to take this? Have you worked on anything in sustainability?
Yeah, I can take this one. I mean, my job is working currently in customer connections, so doing the studies to connect renewable generation to the grid. So it's not like a one-off project. It's the whole point of the role now is to make sure that we're connecting wind farms and solar farms and batteries as well now. So yeah, it's massive.
It's a big part of what you do. So yeah, absolutely, you get hands-on experience. Tanya says, "What is National Grid Ventures?"
So National Grid Ventures is just another part of the business. So National Grid's huge. So we have so many different business areas. We have obviously finance, HR, as we've already mentioned, electricity transmission, gas transmission. We also have National Grid Ventures, which can be referred to as NGV most of the time. But I don't know if Katie or Perry, if either of you have had any experience with NGV.
I haven't had any experience of NGV, no, but that might be because I'm more ESO based.
With ventures, it's in a very sort of basic terms. It's basically looking at the future of electricity mostly and gas as well. So we know that in a few years' time, all sort of petrol and diesel cars will be gone. We're only going to have electric cars. So we have to think, okay, so in 20 years' time, we need so many charging points for these electric vehicles. How's the infrastructure going to work for that? Have we got enough electricity to create to cope with it, and do we need to get more? That's just sort of like one example. There's lots of different really interesting things that they do where they're thinking about sort of the future of National Grid.
Excellent, thanks for that. Ahmed says, and this is a question directly to the apprentices, sort of in your own words, what's the best thing about your apprenticeship specifically?
For me, it's probably I've not been given a specific job role yet, so I could have gone down a couple of different routes. So it's you do a little bit of you do like a work-based project in one and then the other area, and pick which sort of route you want to go down to. So I don't know. I think Katie's was more, this is like your role, but for the job I got, it's come join us, do your uni work, do some placements, and then we'll find what's the best fit. So I think it's just that flexibility. And again, no uni debts is always a plus.
Absolutely. Did you want to add anything to that, Katie? Or?
Yeah, I think, like Perry said, we've got a slightly different role, but I think what I like about it is how you're thrown into things, and it's quite exciting how much you can get involved with so little experience. I don't think you can really get that in many places.
No, absolutely. Okay, thanks, guys. Leah says, do all the roles need a driving license?
Not all roles need a driving license, so I'd just recommend having a look on our website, and it will specify. Some will say driving license required on application. Some might say 3 months before the role. And as I mentioned, advanced apprentices is slightly different because we know that some might be younger, from 16, that can apply. So it would be from your 17th birthday or 12 months from your start date. But then some don't need a license at all. But you just have a look on the website would be my best advice.
Thanks, guys. Abdul says, does this apply for university students?
So our requirements are, as I mentioned, on each individual role application. So some of them do specify that you can have a degree. but you obviously just need to have the 2 GCSEs as well that it asks for. So I think it's maths and English at a C or above. And then if you've got a degree in a relevant subject, which will be listed on the role outline, then that's fine as well.
Yeah, can I just pop in here as well? Because I think for a lot of people, being a level 4 apprenticeship or even a level 3 and thinking they've got a degree, on my course with Perry, I think we've got probably about a third to a half of people actually have a degree as well. So it's not like you're going back a step. I think it's a very different, yeah, just because it's a level 4 doesn't mean having a degree isn't a really useful thing to have.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got a couple of apprentices at Career Map who have done degrees as well. So, you know, like we always try and say to people, sort of careers aren't linear anymore. You know, you can go whichever way you want. So it's always best to keep your options open, absolutely. A couple of questions on sort of locations. I know you said, and sort of you're a national company. Are they pretty much everywhere? You know, Scotland, Wales, absolutely everywhere? Or?
Yeah, so I think the only place we're not is Ireland, but yeah, so Wales, England and Scotland. We have a few more in England than we do in the other two, but obviously England's larger. So yeah, I'd just recommend having a look on the website. We will have some additional ET roles on the website within the next week, I would say. So keep an eye out for those as well.
Thank you.
Maybe worth mentioning there, sorry, with the locations, so in Scotland, we just have gas. There's no, Scotland has their own electricity board. So there's all the electricity jobs will be based sort of Wales and England. Gas jobs are based everywhere, the whole of the UK, apart from Ireland.
Okay. And I know you mentioned they're not sort of city-based. So are they more rural sort of locations, or is it a bit of a mixed bag?
It's a mixed bag. So we have our head offices. So one major office is in Warwick, and then we also have a control centre in Wokingham, which is mostly electricity system operator. So if you've heard us refer to the ESO, so those two are the main offices, I would say, and we also have one in Solihull. But the advanced apprentices, if they're not based there, would probably be based at a site, so either a substation or a compressor station. Katie and Perry, are you both based in Wokingham, I want to say?
I'm in Wokingham. Katie's Warwick, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks, Guy.
Sorry, I'm jumping in again. It's just the nature of the site, because the substations are obviously generally pretty big sort of areas. They tend to be sort of in the country, sort of outside cities and outside towns. There are, like around London, there are some like really tiny ones that are in central London, sort of dotted around, sort of hidden away. But you'll tend to be based at a substation, sort of generally speaking, if not one of the main offices.
And I guess just to add as well, and just to follow on from the license question earlier, some of our roles are peripatetic, which I'd never heard of before I started at National Grid. But it basically means that you're given a zone. So as Anthony mentioned, there might be very small substations outside of cities, but there might be more than one substation within a zone. And for some of our electricity transmission apprenticeships, you're given a zone rather than a specific site, and you would need to travel around to each of those sites within that zone. So they would be closer together. So you wouldn't be traveling from, say, Scotland down to Bristol. But yeah, so that's why for some of our apprenticeships, you do need a license, but that is mostly electricity transmission for that working.
Thanks, guys. John says, what work experience would you say is relevant for applications?
So we know that people apply at different levels. So some people might just be coming out of school, and we're aware that they might not have work experience. That's why we do kind of competency and strength-based questions at assessment centre, and also using the online assessments as well. So the idea of those is that you use past experiences to show that you've got that skill. It doesn't specifically have to be work related. So if you can show that you've worked in a team, if you've played a sport, or if you have a hobby where you've worked in a team with someone, then that's absolutely fine. And And it's also communication. We have to communicate every day. So again, it doesn't have to be work specific, but if you have work specific examples to pull on, then that's absolutely fine. I guess the best tip I could give is probably just choose a recent example, because you probably remember those better.
Okay, brilliant. And just on work experience, is this something that you guys offer, or do you do any sort of taster days or anything like that? You know, for people are maybe unsure about maybe which apprenticeship route they might want to go down, or they just wanted to come and see you, see what the culture was like, have a bit of a nosy around. Is that something you guys offer at all?
So we are, I guess, a very secure company just because of the things that we do. We have a lot of safety hazards, I guess, around the smaller sites, and then the bigger sites have the control centre in. So it's not something we do a lot of, but we are part of Small Peace Trust, which I'm not sure if anyone's heard of. But if you Google Small Peace Trust, we actually hold an apprenticeship week. So you'd go to our training centre in Ekron. I'm not sure if this happened, probably didn't happen over COVID. I'm not sure if it's back up and running since the pandemic. So just bear that in mind. But you would come to the training centre in Ekron, Nottinghamshire, stay for a week, and you'd be involved in different experiences. And at the end, you would be presenting to some different people at National Grid who would have been there all week with you to give you an idea of what we do and if it would be of an interest for you.
Sounds interesting. Okay, thank you. Jason says, what uni do you go to on the degree apprenticeship?
It's Aston Uni.
Aston University.
Yeah, it's based in Birmingham. We're currently doing it online, but I think from September, fingers crossed, it's going to be on campus.
Okay, cool. So if it's on campus and say, you know, somebody lives in Newcastle and wanted to apply, how would that work? Or would you have to live, you know, close to the campus to be offered the role?
No, not at all. You would be given a hotel. I think most people live quite far from Birmingham, so you're given a hotel, and you have your meals paid for as well whilst you're there. So just drive down before and drive down at the end of the week. The time at uni is in blocks of a week or two, so it's not like you're going down there for just a day.
Excellent. All right, I hope that answers your question.
That's the same with the office as well, or it definitely is for me. I currently live 170 miles away from the office and uni, so I've got till this September to relocate, but they're flexible with those sorts of things.
Okay, and on relocation, we have had this a number of times this week. Is this something you guys would help out with?
What do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by help out, I suppose.
Well, like a relocation package is there.
No, they don't offer a relocation package, unfortunately.
Right, okay. Okay, no problem. Megan says, so after the apprenticeship finishes, do you get to keep the role? I mean, what happens then?
I think Katie and Perry are still currently on their apprenticeships, but the idea of our apprenticeships is that they're going to feed into gaps that we predict we're going to have in the future. So we recruit for apprentices to support us with that. So it's not like we'll train people and then they'll just leave. You will have, well, the business will have an idea of the roles that we want you to go into at the end of your 2 to 4 year program, depending on which one you've applied for. You will have reviews during your apprenticeship, so you do have to keep up with your objectives. You do have to keep up with your training and make sure you're passing your courses, your university courses as well. And as long as you're successful in doing that and meeting your objectives, there would be a permanent role at the end. So you'd start on a training role and then there would be a permanent role. I guess Katie and Perry, how close are you both to finishing?
So we only started, both of us, this September, so we're sort of
Okay.
another year and a half.
Okay, thanks, guys. And this is a question to the apprentices from Leroy. He says, what is the support like for you guys? Especially work balance, study balance, mentoring, that sort of stuff. How do you feel supported on your apprenticeship?
Yeah, there's loads of people. You've got the talent team from an apprenticeship point of view, so they support you through the scheme and the Ukraine training. So you have like one point of contact there in particular you can go to about anything. You also have a business coordinator who deals with the stuff you do on the job. Sort of like a line manager, they can either be the same or it could be a different person. You are given a buddy as well, who's a previous apprentice, and also as you go through, you identify a mentor as well, who's somebody perhaps in your department who's been there for a while and has a lot of experience. I've got one who's a very experienced engineer who I sit down with every couple of weeks and just check up on things, ask them questions, and even if they're not anyone in particular, there's loads of support from people in general in the company. So yeah, there's no shortage of support there.
Good stuff. Another one for the apprentices saying, during your interview, sort of, how did you manage to win them over? What examples of, teamwork and star principle did you guys use?
I think one of the questions was, they like to know what you've done to be part of a team, or what you've done to stop like a bad situation. So it's just, for me, I talked a bit about like where is to coach football teams and that sort of leadership / teamwork, and then other like unsafe acts I saw in my job. So it's all personal to what you know, I suppose, and what you've done. Everyone has their own experiences to sort of lean on for those ones.
Yeah, I think mirroring what Perry said, it's quite an individual thing, and making sure it shows who you are as a person as well. Before this, I did a level 3 apprenticeship in engineering, so I had some quite relevant examples from that. But it really could be anything as long as you link it to what they're asking and you make yourself sound as good as possible.
What's your best bit of advice for your interview then? Your key takeaway, what would you say to the guys?
I think be yourself. I think they pick a lot of character and what they pick up. I know interviews are nervy. I'm dreadful in interviews myself, but I think, it doesn't matter what you've done. Like in our course alone, there was someone that was a lifeguard and there's someone that had done an aerospace engineering degree. It really doesn't matter as long as you've got the entry requirements. Like, don't think just because you haven't got a degree you won't get it. If you can sort of sell yourself in a good enough manner, everyone has a chance.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, guys. Let's have a look. So Stacey says, again, this one's for the apprentices. What made you choose National Grid for your apprenticeship?
I mean, that is quite a tough one because there are lots of options on the market at the moment. But I thought the roles that National Grid advertised were quite unique. There's a lot of, IT apprenticeships. There was a lot of similar style roles in lots of companies like civil engineering. But what National Grid give, I think, is quite unique, and also the fact that they're so involved with preventing climate change and all of the work that they're doing to promote renewables as well. That's what really drew me to National Grid.
Thank you, guys. And there's a few questions on workload. How do you find the workload with your studies and your job?
I think it's very so we have set weeks, we have our own like schedules, and it'll be a set week or 2 weeks of university where you're in lectures 9 to 5 and you're not doing any work on the side. Then you'll get set assignments which you will have to do in your own time, but then sort of the uni's done and you're back to doing your job. So it is clearly laid out what you're meant to be doing and when. So they help a lot with that. They plan your time very well.
Thank you. Kenya says, what type of things are National Grid doing to meet net zero?
I think everything we're doing at the minute is a drive towards net zero. So we're looking at more ways to deal in like battery storage and hydrogen storage, and we've had days now where we've used zero coal on the network for periods of time. So that the drive is definitely there.
Do you do much in the nuclear sector, or is that maybe separate?
Again, there's nuclear, like the Hinkley's being built at the moment. Sizewell C's hopefully going to get built as well. I don't see much of the nuclear stuff in my job, but nuclear is also there, and a lot of our imported like power from France is nuclear as well.
Is that something apprentices get sort of exposure to, the nuclear side?
Definitely in my role, I've had good exposure to that. I've got in like a meeting with some external people to talk about those sort of things next week as well. So we definitely get the exposure to make sure we're ready for the job when we finish our apprenticeship.
Yeah, and hopefully I think we're trying to organise a visit to some interconnector sites, some DC converter sites as well, which will be quite interesting. Getting on site and seeing things in the flesh really puts it in perspective.
Cool. Okay. Aisha says, do you need to be 18 to work on site? I went to the ECITB event the other day and they said you do. I'm only 16.
I mean, we recruit apprentices from 16, so I'm not too sure where that information's come from. It might be a specific site, but I've never heard of that. We obviously we do risk assessments, we have health and safety policies, so I don't see why we would need people to be 18, but yeah, I don't know, Katie and Perry, if you've heard anything different.
No, I've never heard of having to be 18. That might be the ECITB might have been doing a different apprenticeship though.
Maybe.
I know they take on a lot of like Shell, BP apprentices. They might have to be 18 maybe.
Yeah, but National Grid, we accept people. Well, advanced apprentices can start from 16.
So you're good to go, Aisha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Steph says, hello, does having a disability prevent you from applying? I heard you mention the colourblind test.
So for some roles, you do need full colour vision. It's mostly our electricity transmission apprenticeships. But yeah, we accept applications from everyone. On the application form, it will ask you if you have full colour vision, and if you don't, it just asks specifically if you know if it's red or greens or other colours, and then we would basically ask the business to see if that's okay. But it is a health and safety policy, and because of the things that you'd be doing, you would need full colour vision for some roles, but it will specify it on the role outline. But we accept applications from everyone, and I think I mentioned earlier with the hints and tips, if you need adjustments for a disability or health condition for the application process, just please get in touch and we can do that.
Thank you. Remy says, can you recommend any sources to practice the online games in the profile assessment?
I don't know if any sort of particular sites that you can go to, but to be honest, if you Google sort of online assessments, lots of things will come up. And they're all pretty similar, so that should be quite an easy fix, I should think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we use HireVue. So HireVue have a website that you can go on. So it's HireVue. So you can just go on their website, and they have some hints and tips on there as well. And they might have something that you can practice with, but I'm not 100% sure.
Thank you. Josh says, should I connect with National Grid apprentices on LinkedIn to help network?
I mean, LinkedIn is a great place to expand your network. I am on LinkedIn, and I've gave some advice to somebody on there before, so I'm happy to connect and answer any questions there.
Great.
Yeah, I'm the same. If anyone ever has any questions, they can reach me on there or email me either way.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Sam says, can I register for next year anywhere?
Yes. So if you go onto our website and just go onto the main apprenticeship page, I think it will ask in one of the sections, can't find what you're looking for, register here. If you can't find it, our email address is just careers@nationalgrid.com. So send us an email and we can just send the link over to you.
Thank you, guys. Interesting question from Sam. Can you have another try if you mess up at the assessment centre or interview?
So I would guess that if that question means that you might have applied a previous year and been unsuccessful. If that is the case, yeah, we would never stop anyone from applying again. We've had people apply, well, unsuccessful the first time round, they've applied again, and then they've actually been offered and been successful in gaining an apprenticeship. So I say, yeah, make sure you've asked for that feedback from your assessment centre, work on those points, and then, yeah, hopefully you get another invite.
Great advice, thank you. Nicola says, how high are the heights you have to work at?
I'm not sure in kind of meters, but we basically maintain obviously the pylons. So the pylons that you see, you might need to go up if you are, say, an overhead lines crafts person. We used to do working at heights assessment at assessment centre. So at that point, you would go up in a MUPE, so it's a motorised elevation work platform, I think that stands for. And you would basically go up at 3 heights. So you'd be with someone else, so someone that controls the MUPE, and they would be just watching you. You just need to make sure that you can comfortably take your hands off and move, I think it's a clip from one point to another. And you would do that at 3 different heights on this pylon. So it is, I guess, could be higher than a house. So if you're not comfortable with that, I'd probably say make sure that you don't apply for a role that's happy to work at heights.
Yeah, good advice. Sajad, you've covered this probably, but could you just tell the guys again what GCSE grades they need for the apprenticeships?
Yeah, so advanced apprenticeships, you need a GCSE in maths, English, so that can be English language or literature, and also science. So we need those 3 definitely for the advanced one, and they all need to be at a 4 or above. You also then need an extra 2 or a BTEC in a STEM subject. And then for the higher apprenticeships, you need to have your maths and English GCSE again at a 4 or above. And then we do need additional either A levels, so it would be 2 A levels. 1 is usually in a specific subject. So for the engineering roles, it's mostly maths or physics. The second one can be in absolutely anything. So you could potentially have maths and maybe English or maths and art. So as long as you've got one of those specified, that's absolutely fine. And then we also accept the equivalent BTEC level 3 extended diploma. You just need a merit or distinction for those.
There you go, guys. Hope that helps. John says, how do you decide which job route you want to go down, and does this change what you study on your apprenticeship?
I think this is a good question, because I remember this time last year looking at them and thinking, how would I know which one to apply for? They are all quite different, but you're kind of grouped into a cohort. So for me and Perry, we're doing different roles, and I think there's 3 or so other roles, but we do the same foundation degree, but we're doing different roles. So that's on the higher apprenticeship. I'm not entirely sure about the advanced apprenticeship, but yeah, for us, we're doing the same training, even though we're doing different roles. And then how did I decide? I thought the power system engineering was probably the most kind of maths technical, which is what I wanted. whereas some of the more planning routes are a bit more kind of project management type, although you will also need quite a lot of technical knowledge for them as well. But as I said, this is speaking from higher apprenticeship. I'm not sure about the substation roles.
Okay, thank you.
I guess from advanced apprenticeship roles, we have gas transmission, electricity transmission, and National Grid Ventures. So I probably recommend going onto the National Grid website, just the normal corporate website. You can find that just by Googling National Grid, and it just runs through each of what the different business areas do. So I guess if one of those sparks your interest, then you can go onto the careers website and have a look at what roles they're advertising for.
Thank you, guys. Daz says, how many apprentices do you take on each year?
It does vary, but this year I think we have around 70, so that's across both apprenticeships.
Okay. Ellis says, can I apply from 35?
Yeah, so we don't have an age limit on our application, so you can apply from whatever age. As long as you meet the requirements, we can accept your application.
No upper age limit. Okay.
We do have people in their 30s on our course.
Excellent. Open to everyone.
Exactly.
Mia says, I was looking at your website and can only find roles in Warwick. Is she looking in the wrong place?
Possibly. So what I would recommend doing is, I'm currently looking at my website right now. So you go on, you've got a taskbar at the top and you've got new talent, and then click the main apprenticeship page. So if you go from there, there'll be an apply now button. That link is basically a special link. Sorry, I'm not that technical, but it will basically input the word apprenticeship into our search bar so that all of them come up, so not just specifically Warwick. Also, just make sure that you've not got a specific location on in the drop down bar where it asks what location you're interested in. Just keep that as all locations, and they should pop up. And we do try and put the location into the job title if it's not easily seen on the website. I hope that helps. But if not, careers@nationalgrid.com and we can help.
Brilliant, thank you. Kelly says, do you accept BTECs?
Yeah, so for the advanced apprenticeships, we accept a BTEC level 2, I think is equivalent to a GCSE, but it does have to be in a STEM subject for the engineering roles. All of our advanced apprenticeships are STEM based. For the higher apprenticeships, we do have IT and procurement roles. So for those, we would accept BTECs in IT or business, but for the higher apprenticeships, they do need to be a level 3.
Thank you. This is quite a big question from Megan. She says, please can you explain what the tasks you'd be doing in each apprenticeship, please?
Perry, do you want to talk from your point of view?
Because I'm ESO based, you can sort of go down a control or a planning route with my version of this apprenticeship. So the roles can range anywhere from sort of planning outages, talking to or like the interconnected countries with our interconnected lines, which there are 7. Black start planning, which would be if the network went down, how we'd get it back online. Going into like control routes, which would be actually the running of the network. There's so many different routes. It's quite a difficult one, and that's just in my apprenticeship. So then you've got the other ones, which I don't really know much about because there's so much to learn in my own one. But yeah, I don't know if you've got any extras, Katie, on there.
Yeah, I spoke briefly about it before, that my role, which is power system engineer, higher apprentice, is mainly about studying connections to the grid, mainly from generation side, so connecting generators. There is, in electricity transmission, we have control engineers as well. So they will be working in the control center, which is more of a like minute by minute checking of the system. If there's any faults, making sure that you're switching out assets, or if there's maintenance, like it's very like real time. So that's the electricity transmission hire apprentice. I don't know what it's actually called, but it'll be control.
TNCC, I think. Is it that one, Kate?
Yeah, it's a TNCC one. I don't know whether it's down as TNCC or what.
Yeah, so it's transmission network control center.
Yeah, there you go. So that's that one. There's the portfolio planning. So they're the people that would like build a year ahead plan saying when different assets are going to be taken out for maintenance, and the people needed to do that. And then also in the current year, if things get delayed or things fault and it's got to be changed, again, kind of liaising with Perry in the system operator to make sure that that can be safely taken out for maintenance for substation engineers to work on. There's also asset management, so that's looking at like the health and the condition of our assets, which is transformers, overhead lines, protection devices, that kind of thing, and making sure that we're maximising that and cost efficiency there. So I think they're the main ones from the people in our cohort, which again doesn't cover all of them, so it's quite a big question.
Yeah.
And I think as well, I've just touched on the advanced apprenticeships, which we didn't cover. They're kind of more of our field engineers. So they would potentially be out on site, out kind of maintaining those pipelines and making sure that everything's still working. So that's what our advanced apprenticeship roles would be about.
Thanks, everybody. And I suppose one last question before we wrap up. What is the grid? Somebody asks.
Lots of big questions. It's from our point of view, it's the major transmission of high voltage from the generators generating the electricity to the smaller distribution operators, which will then take it to your house. So it's just a whole mass of wires. We own them, and then the ESO, where Perry is, actually work on the services of the electricity, balancing the supply and the demand. The national grid, electricity transmission, we just own all of the cabling, all of the overhead lines, and the grid is that, which is the network of all the cables.
Massive. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, guys. Well, before we end, did you want to leave any sort of parting words to the attendees today?
I guess just thank you very much for joining, and hopefully we'll see your application come through. And just remember, if you have any issues or would like to talk a bit more about what apprenticeship you'd like to apply for, then please just send us an email.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, really appreciate your time and coming in today to speak about the exciting opportunities at National Grid. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Just to say, the session's being recorded. We're going to put it on the nationalapprenticeshipweek.co.uk website on the on-demand section, hopefully later today, so you can refer to it there at any time. We've also got a couple more events later today, so have a look at the events tab on the website there as well. And yes, thank you everybody for coming and asking all the great questions. We will sign off now. Goodbye.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.